So I've got the chat loaded and we are live. We're good to go. So welcome, guys. Thanks for coming to the live summit number 4. I think it is. I think 3 or 4. So
good to be here. Thanks, Shane.
We've got Brett Kingman from Australia. Oh, I've got my sound on. Hang on. Let me turn that off.
I love that you're the host. I love that you're the host and you're the one who messed that up.
Yeah. I had the chat.
You would think that Google, who owns YouTube and Chrome, would auto mute that, knowing that we just went live. You would think that it would be built in, right?
That's crazy talk.
And what's even worse is when you got 10 years experience in IT and you can't remember to mute your other stream. So that's even more embarrassing. Yeah. So we've got Anthony from Texas Blues Alley here today in the blue shirt. We've got Lewis, the Tone King, or it comes up as Louis on the chat here.
Hello, everybody. Start with one of those bad boys right there.
Nick in the States, the Mohawk man himself.
I didn't lose a bet. I swear it was a little kid's request, and I figure, sure, this is what every 41-year-old man should look like.
It looks cool.
I'm waiting to see what notes. I'm waiting to see what Steve from Boston looks like with a mohawk coming up as well.
I'll come over, Steve.
Are you guys doing the mohawk for the upcoming trip?
Yeah, it's a solidarity thing. We're all doing mohawks. And
exactly.
Nice.
Even Mary Spender.
That's awesome.
So some of you guys are heading off to Germany. Is it the Toman event? Is that where you're off to? Cool. Yeah. You want to just turn up your mic a little bit, Steve?
Check. 1, 2, check. Hello.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Check.
It works.
All right.
Cool. So welcome everyone in the chat. We've got 90 people here already, so that's awesome. And we've got a couple of people who might be joining the second hour as well. We're just going to see how we go. A couple of special guests, all being well. The way I thought I'd sort of drive this particular live stream is we're going to take more questions than we did the first couple of times. So if someone has a question, you can ask it in the chat, and anyone who sees it, who wants to call it out from the panel or whatever you want to call what we're doing here, then feel free to jump in and we can drive the discussion that way. I didn't really have anything planned. I like to just sort of go in blind with these things sometimes. So or if any of you guys have anything in particular you want to add or mention or have a chat about, then that would be cool too. So we've got
Phil Smith in the house. Hello, Phil. What's up, man?
Hey.
So many familiar names. Great to see everyone.
Quentin James. Sonia, welcome. We've got Terry here as well. Awesome
Always
stuff.
good to see Terry.
So there was some new news today. I guess we could start with some news that Yamaha bought Ampeg. I thought that was exciting.
Yeah, I saw that.
What do you guys make of that? That what was it most interesting to me is Loud Industries, I think it's called. That was flat. So it's like they, what else do they have? Blackheart, right?
Is that the company that owns Mackie?
Yeah, Mackie.
Okay.
No, Yamaha, who bought Line 6 or owns Line 6. I don't know the exact arrangement. They just bought Ampeg.
Oh wow.
Huh.
I didn't even hear about that.
Interesting.
I'm just happy to see Yamaha active in the guitar space because, in general, I'd like to, I don't know if it's because they're, where are they based out of? Is it Japan?
Japan?
Mm-hmm. Probably, yeah.
I feel like they could, they bring a unique approach to the guitar industry. So I'm happy to see signs that they're not shrinking in the industry. I'm glad to see them doing something forward-looking.
It's interesting you said that. I was just talking to a buddy of mine who owns a guitar company, actually. And we were just talking about Yamaha, oddly enough, before this whole thing happened. And I had said to him, I said, Yamaha should buy a guitar company because Yamaha guitars, they've been around forever. In fact, the second guitar I ever bought was a Yamaha SE350. But Yamaha guitars never took off, I feel like. But, they're a big company. They bought Line 6. They didn't, invent modeling. They bought modeling. So maybe they could buy a guitar company and make that part of their portfolio. And then ironically, they bought a bass amp company, which I thought was interesting.
Well, there was talk too that people were thinking that they would be a good stalking horse suitor for Gibson, depending on how everything went there, because they're such a sprawling enterprise. They bought a friend of mine's company that work here. They do Revo Labs, like microphones and stuff, corporate things. And they went over there and toured all their instrument manufacturing, and like their high-end stuff, they are fanatical about how they do it, how they test it, all their pianos, the real high-end classical guitars, things like that. And I think that would be a good match if Gibson ever was purchased instead of just owned by the people who own all their debt.
So we were back in the 90s, and in the early 90s, they really were great with acoustics. Yamaha's always had a dominant position with guitars, but in electric guitars, that Pacifica line was one of our strongest selling lines in that low to mid range. They never really took off in the high end market, but the Pacificas, it definitely flew off the shelf between, like, say, 1990 and 1996.
Interesting.
So they've had periods where, you know, they've had runs of guitars.
The RevStar is a cool little series too, right? I mean, not that it took off Hughes, but those are really good playing, well-built guitars.
Yeah, they're great. It's fantastic.
Oh, cool.
Part of me wonders
last week about those.
If some of what we see from Yamaha, at least, I mean, I don't know how it is around the world, but here in the States, Yamaha, in terms of guitars, seems very much like a second tier company in terms of visibility. And I wonder how much of that has to do with the fact that they are such a massive company that guitars, I mean, how much of their overall business is guitars? Whereas you look at like Fender or Gibson, like the guitar is the heart of the company. And so maybe they have not taken off, not for because the audience hasn't chosen, but just because the company has never had the impetus to put, you know, a significant amount of weight behind promoting the brand the way some others have. I don't know.
So you raise a good point, because I always thought, you know, the same company that makes guitars makes generators and ATVs and pianos. You're right. It's so how much focus is behind it, and if it's all they did, maybe it would have a. I agree with you. I agree. I've thought of that. I've thought about that in the past.
It felt to me like they did more in the 90s. Like, I remember going into the Guitar Center, Daddy's Music, EU Wurlitzer, when they were a chain. You could go into those stores that have a whole bunch of Yamahas on the wall. Then for the longest time, you wouldn't see a Yamaha anywhere. Even in the low to mid-range, it was like barely anything on the shelf. So it looked to me like Yamaha was just saying, you know what? We're not really doing the electric. We're not really pushing that market. And maybe they're just trying to come back to that. Who knows?
Well, in our chat on whatever day it was that I jumped in here, I was showing off a Pacifica VFMX 612 or something like that I saw out at the NAMM show. And I bought it just based on looks, just from seeing it that one time at the show. And they only made 100 in that finish. But when I got it, you know, I was amazed that the build quality was just great. And so they do have, I think, I mean, obviously it's a little bit of a takeoff on the Strat, but it is, I mean, you see a Pacifica, you know it. I mean, they have a distinct headstock style, and their modeling amps, the THR line, was it THR 5 and 10 and 10X
and 100? They made 100 too.
They don't sound like, I mean, all the real good modeling stuff, it's all good today, but the Yamaha stuff, I mean, they definitely have a distinct sound the way that they're doing it, and they have a very distinct design look to it. That's why I'm just happy to see that they're actively investing in this market, because I feel like the whole guitar community is better when you have a company with a distinct style and approach like that, who's, you know, doesn't believe that the electric guitar is dead.
Yeah. Well, the CEO doesn't bash their customers, one or the other.
Yeah.
Also true.
Yamaha used to make a white guitar that looked like, came out when like the iPhones were coming out. Does anyone know what that model was? I thought that one was pretty cool. It looked like,
oh, it was almost like a single cutaway, but it leaned a little. Was it that one?
It was white, and I think the knobs lit up like blue or something like that. It looked like an iPhone, but a guitar. Does anyone remember that one?
Wow.
Maybe 10 years ago, 8 years ago. No.
I feel like Lewis reads a news site that the rest of us have not discovered yet.
I think that was part of my party years.
Probably called my imagination.
Brett, did you say you had a Yamaha Pacifica there as well?
No, I have a Revstar 820, which I'll be happy to show you if you can give me a moment. I'll go and grab it.
Oh, that's cool.
I'd love to see it.
No worries.
Okay.
Those are awesome. I've played a dozen of those and almost brought everyone home.
I'll just slip into my shower recess behind and see if I can find it. 2 moments.
Cool.
Yeah, I remember in the early 90s they had come out with a really high-end Pacifica, and it was way beyond anything else they did. It was all flame maple, like multi-flamed piece neck and ebony fingerboard, and it's very fancy inlays and a Floyd rose, and
I found it.
Oh, you found it?
RGX.
Yeah, that's it. RGX. That's right.
Yeah, that's Kirk Peterson called it in the chat. Good job, Kirk.
Oh, okay. All right, that was the one. That's the one Yamaha guitar that I saw, and I was like,
that's nice.
That is really cool.
Yeah, it's great. It plays beautifully. This one's Indonesian. The 820 CR, RS 820, RS for Revstar, 820 for the model. I think it's second tier, and CR for whatever the color is. But it's great. And the pickups are nice, and they're kind of neutral. They haven't got a particular spank or anything. They're just flat. The board is gorgeous. The frets are I can't fault it.
Was that the Revstar?
Yeah, it's really good.
What's the finish? What's the color? I'm just looking at a little thumbnail here.
Charcoal. It's like a
that's
matte.
nice. That's a nice guitar.
Yeah,
I love the cream accent.
This might turn out to be an expensive hangout for me here.
The binding's perfect. Anodized pickguard. You can split the coils in these moderate output sort of PAF type pickups. It's really, really good.
And it has racing stripes. Very subtle racing stripes, which is awesome.
Actually, CR, that's what it is. CR stands for Cafe Racer, which is the whole kind of philosophy behind the design, the old Cafe Racer motorbike movement from Japan.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's beautiful.
Yeah, they're good. Highly recommended for the bucks, which I think these are under $1,000. It's pretty good. So
beautiful. It's kind of like a refined SG or something, like it's sort of like a classier. I don't want to say classier, but it's got a very it's got a great vibe. It's a bit less rock and roll in a way, but
it's a little less opinionated than an SG.
Yeah.
It's more lead. It's got a more West Coast looking vibe to it. It's like a surfer's SG.
That's true. It's understated, but very capable. So it's good.
So here it's listed as the Revstar Rusty Rat. Does that ring a bell?
No.
Rusty Rat. Maybe that's referring to the finish. Rusty Rat. I don't know.
I don't know if anyone just saw that in the chat, but Cheddar Kung Pao used the super chat. $4.99 for Nick to finish paying for his haircut.
Look at that. See, who knew? It's perfect.
Yeah,
we should be able to tip people who give good tips and good comments. That'd be great.
That was great.
The reverse tip.
I'm waiting for a check from Yamaha. Should be here tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
I also just had a question asking where's Andrew. There was I sent an email. Obviously, he was invited to the chat. Andrew from the Guitar Geek channel. It's 2 a.m. where he is. And I have sent it. I confirmed he was on the receiving list of that email, so it has been sent. So he may be asleep. I just wanted to let everyone know he was invited. He told me. I think he would actually post a thing on Instagram saying he was going to be on. So hopefully he makes it at some point.
Which part of the world is 2 a.m.?
I think he's English, but he lives in Austria. I think so. I think it's crazy early there. Something like that anyway. It's pretty late. So he is invited. I just thought I'd throw that in because a couple of people are asking about him there.
Okay. He's asleep.
Yeah, I reckon that might be it.
Hope so.
So just before we went live, we were kind of talking a little bit about protecting our ears playing or even just recording at home and all that kind of stuff. And I just wondered what maybe some of you guys do in terms of, like, I know I've spoken to Lewis a little bit about this, and like Brett and I were just talking before, but we're all pretty cautious with our ears. Is there anyone in here that still, like, I don't know about Anthony, but do you still crank up an amp when you do your videos, or are you recording maybe in a I don't want to put smarter way in quotations, but
no, I get it.
Yeah.
I used to record with a live amp every single time, but what I found is that I was way too picky about mic placement, and so it got to one of those things where every time I wanted to shoot a lesson, I'd have to spend 20 or 30 minutes fooling around with a mic and everything like that. So these days, because I often am recording, let's just say for Free Lesson Friday, I'm doing that almost as an afterthought on Friday morning. I'm shooting a Friday morning, trying to get it out and advertised by 1 p.m. More often than not, I plug into the Kemper because I know what I'm going to get. I know I have presets already in Logic. I know how to mix that. But even if I wasn't using the Kemper on a regular basis for the videos, I still wouldn't be recording with lots of volume because that screws up the voice mic. Because I'm not disciplined in terms of talking, then stopping and playing. I can't run an effective gating situation or ducking to make it all come out good. So I have to keep the ambient volume low enough so that I can mix my vocal track without any kind of funny gating or whatever. And so what I would use before is those plexiglass shields. I forget the company that makes them, but they make them where they have the acoustic panels on the inside so that it doesn't turn into a big echo chamber inside. And so I got the kind that would go completely around the amp and then have an acoustic panel on top. And that thing was dreadfully effective to the point where if you had an amp that was less than 50 watts, it would end up being very unsatisfying because it would muffle it to the point where it wasn't even enjoyable to play anymore. So it was incredibly effective for that. But the only time I fool around with any serious volume these days is when I'm trying to get a feel for an amp that I bought. But even then, it's only about 5 minutes of fooling around with it without earplugs, and then the musician's earplugs go in so that I can actually hear for the rest of the day.
Yeah, cool. How about Brett? I know we spoke about this before, but that was off air.
Well, after about 1,000 videos with Laney 100 watts and high watts and Marshalls, I decided that I better protect what little hearing I had left. So thankfully, I became part of the Fractal Audio team around the world, which has been amazing. But I still like to use an amp. So I've got this, which is a recent release, X-Load, which is a reactive load, and I know that Two Notes do a similar thing called the Captor. And what it does is allows me to take the 8 ohm speaker output into this X-Load, which then feeds a line signal to the IR of my choice in the Axe Effects and go direct to Logic, which gives me the versatility of a real amp front end and whatever speaker cab I choose to mix it with at the other end, and about 30 less dB in the room. As far as the recording with the vocal goes, I usually go into Logic and edit out anything or spill anyway and just try to talk in blocks in the vocal stem. So the X-Load I can highly recommend for those who want to record and with a real amp and protect their hearing as well. It's been a godsend, I have to say.
I gotta also ask you a quick question too. I noticed you got the Achilles amp behind you.
Yeah.
The Argos, I borrowed that in its early days of prototype, and I said to him, I can't record this. It is so loud. And then I saw your video and you had it basically dimed. I was like, I thought I went outside, I could hear it. I know we're like, it's probably a 45-minute drive from each other, but I was like,
well, this is probably the same amp that you demoed. This is the prototype. This is number one. Yeah. And I did have it dimed through the X-Load. And
okay, cool.
And into the Ohm Hammer Guns N' Roses 4x12 greenback IRs, which Kevin has only released a couple of weeks ago.
Hey, Brett.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. There we go. My window wasn't. So which amp is that?
This one? This is an Achilles, which is a local Melbourne build-up stroke company, and it's a JTM 45 Bassman.
Got it. And with
what's
the load box
switches on it?
What's the load box you're using above it?
The load box is, I'll just unplug it so you can see. It's a heavy beast. It's the Fractal Audio X-Load LB2, which all it does is takes the 8 ohm speaker output, feeds it into this, and then you can use the line out to drive an impulse response, which I do by inserting it into the front end of the Axifex, and then just the Axifex is just running an IR, maybe with a bit of reverb. So it's a load box. It's a reactive load box, and it works really well. And you've got 2 impedance settings, US and UK. So there's not much to it, but man, it's so useful in my situation. But I think other companies, I think So do one, and
I have a question. I have a question for you guys. And it's funny because I own both. I never did it back to back. I'm curious to know what you think. So forever, I've been using a THD hot plate. Right?
Sorry.
Really?
I had one of those. I hated it so bad. It just got fizzy. Every time I got it down to a reasonable volume, it just got fizzy. It turned me off of attenuators completely. And it's only now that I'm hearing people talk about new ones that I think maybe I was just too early to that show. But if it works for you, I'm not trying to talk. I just know from my past experience, I didn't like it.
Okay. So no, I respect that. I had good luck with it. I did a lot of recordings with it. And that's actually, for many, many years, that's what allowed me to play. Because I like to hear what I'm playing through like an amp cabinet. So that allowed me to turn the amp up, but bring the levels down. Excuse me. And then all of a sudden, there's a surge of reactive loads, right? I guess the THD is not reactive. It's, what would you call the THD?
Resistive.
Resistive, thank you. I mean, is there a huge difference, or is it a subjective difference?
Absolutely. There's a massive difference. Because one, the reactive load box is pushing back almost like a rubber band, right? So it's like pushing back and it's a push-pull, but it's hard to explain, but the resistive, it doesn't give the amps like transformers and whatever, its output. It doesn't give it the back load that it expects like it would get from a speaker. It still works, right? It doesn't hurt it, but it's not the same. It really isn't. And, these reactive load boxes are funny. These came from amp testers, right? Because they would have to test amps, and the tube amps that have to put a load on it. And so, you can't do that all day with real speakers. They do it, right? You'd go deaf. So they do it, and they have to crank the amp up, and they do burn-ins and tests and all this stuff. So this whole reactive load box sort of came out of that like manufacturing tool that was, I think, more cheaper. Someone said, let's just put an output on it, and we'll just right, and we'll make it this. But it was the same thing. It really came out of that industry, like the manufacturing industry,
right?
Now it's sort of a thing, and I'll say one thing. They're getting smaller and smaller. I mean, I have the
2 notes.
I got the torpedo reload, but the Captor, I can't believe how much smaller it is.
It's right here.
They heat up a little bit, obviously, because they're that energy is somewhere, but it's not the same. It's almost like I'm trying to think.
I think the difference with the
cam, right? It's like always holding it back.
Yeah, the difference between the reload and the Captor, I believe the reload keeps a very consistent ohm to the amp, where the Captor does not.
Well, no, the Captor you can't select the ohm, so I can go 40 or 16 on the reload, just slide a switch. Right. But the Captor has a giant thing on it that says it's 8 ohms. Done.
Exactly.
Into it, are you going to ruin your amp?
Yeah, I have the. So that's what I've been using lately is the Captor 8. But I'll tell you what, man, I kind of miss using the hot plate, but I don't know. Maybe because I was so used to hearing it for so many years.
I tell you what, man, there's no right or wrong. Like if that works for your setup, then go use the one you enjoy the most. I mean, I think I've tried a hot plate on a super reverb and I didn't like it, but I tried like as a power attenuator. But I've tried that particular type of THD hot plate on other amps where it's worked better. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's sometimes dependent on.
So Shane, did you try a reactive load with that same amp that you did like?
No. So I don't have. I've only got I got a 2-notes torpedo live rack. Okay. I don't have the Captor, but I've tried a couple of different. I've got the THD hot plate in there from my old Super Reverb. Actually, my friend Rick gave it to me. But nice. I also had another one for my Blues Deluxe or Hot Rod Deluxe, maybe it was back then, where I used to just crank up the clean channel on 10 and then bring the amp down, and it worked for that application. But yeah, for recording, it was a really good thing. But I didn't use it back then. It wasn't like the IRs they weren't around back when I was doing that. It was still early days, I guess. I just want to give a shout out.
The technology has come a long way in that area, because I mean the hot plate was out back when you had to. I mean, pretty much everyone knows what an attenuator does. I mean, some amps have them built in now, but I mean back in the day, like you bought an amp, you were stuck with however loud it was. And I think
Schultz Power Soak. Remember that?
Yeah. And the power break. And a lot of people complain that those would kill your amp. But was it the amp or was it the unit?
They probably would, because it's like a dam on the output.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that they've had to, meet with better technology is the fact that the speaker's not presenting a constant impedance anyway. It varies based on frequency, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And so I think what some of the newer devices do is they more accurately fool your amp into thinking that it's seeing a speaker, because the impedance will vary in the same way that it does from an actual speaker. And so that's why I think maybe they end up sounding more musical, because the amp will behave more like it does when there's an actual speaker involved. But the fact that now you can get those things with the cabinet IRs built in and all this other kind of stuff, there's just so many more options now. And I'm thinking, like, back in the days when I was in college and I, for whatever reason, bought a Fender Twin, and I was in an apartment, I was doing anything I could to figure out how to make this thing quiet. But I still have vivid memories of one Sunday night deciding, the heck with it, I'm going to play and deal with the consequences. I cranked the thing up, and when I got to the end of the one song, in that brief pause, I heard somebody yelling out of the window, a floor or two down. They were like, "Shut up! For the love of God, shut up!" That's what life was like back then. There were no attenuators or anything like that.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say someone was going to yell out "Free bird," but no.
Just think about how the two devices will react. So, in other words, when you run an attenuator, right, and you set the attenuator at a certain level, right, and then you turn the amp up, the amp just goes up and down in volume, and it gets louder and louder. If the amp gets too loud, you have to go and turn the attenuator up a little bit. And when you turn the amp volume down, maybe you have to turn the attenuator back off a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. With a load box, after about 10% on the knob, it's just a tone knob. The volume is absolutely steady. It ramps up in the first 10 or 15%, and then it's pretty much all steady, and it breaks up and turns it. But the volume itself, you're never constantly adjusting the volume to say, oh, now it's too loud. It doesn't work like that. It's pretty steady netty the whole way after about 15%, maybe 20% of the knob.
Right.
But it sounds different. It turns into a tone knob from a volume knob.
Just a quick shout out to Jamal. He used the super chat as well. He said, "Quick question for everyone. Where do you see your YouTube channel in 5 years?" That's sort of like a job interview question. Yeah. That's.
I tell you, I've been following Anthony since long. I want to say you might have had 3,000 subs when I subbed you.
It probably got me back in 2008, because I started with 17. Yeah, because all I had on my channel before that was just band videos from whatever band I was in.
It was probably It was the old name, and I want to say it was could have been 2010, early 2010.
Real question was I shooting in high definition yet?
No, you were still 4:3. I'm pretty sure.
You caught me in 2008 then.
Yeah.
Who else misses the days of 240p and square pixel quality?
Yes.
Oh, they went 720p like the week I started shooting videos.
Oh man, you got it at the right time. Because you know what? The longer you were putting out videos before that, the more of your catalog is stuck there. Even if your master versions are good quality, YouTube refuses to implement a thing where you can re-upload the master video. Like Vimeo has that feature, and I just wish YouTube allowed, because some of the old videos just make me want to cringe.
Yeah.
So what feature are you looking for?
What's that? Oh, for YouTube, the ability to go back and re-upload the master video for an old video that might have been shot in HD, but they didn't support HD, so they would down convert. They would down convert everything to 480p, even if it was uploaded in 720p, which 8 or 9 years ago was if you uploaded in 720p 8 or 9 years ago, you were like, ooh, somebody's fancy. So YouTube couldn't handle that. And now it's just like they won't even let you upload something if it's not HD. At least I don't think so.
They probably do it for the integrity of the timestamp of the video itself. That would be my guess.
I know. I mean, it's probably because they run into so many controversies anyway with people uploading stuff they get in trouble for. If somebody was able to change the video behind the scenes, then it probably some legal situations. But nonetheless, I wish they would let me replace some of those old terrible quality videos. But
it's always good to look back and realize how much better things have got. That's the way I look at it. I got some really terrible videos in the early days of my channel. They were just awful. Some weren't bad in concept, but they just, no lighting, messy bed behind me, just junk on the floor, just no
like my place.
No, yours is
I shot a couple videos wearing sandals, and I still get emails about that.
You got to do that from time to time now, just to troll everybody. Just wear Crocs or something,
It's fantastic when you get a comment on the 5-year-old video that's like, dude, you got to do whatever better to the people critiquing how you've done it. You're like, it's been 5 years, man.
I got one better for you. I got people saying, dude, why are you shooting with a camcorder mic? And it's like, dude, that's like 2006, bro. Like, look at the timestamp of the video.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Nothing on the internet ever dies.
That's right. That's right.
If anybody out there is ever thinking about starting a YouTube channel and putting something up there, all I have to say, 2 things. Number 1, think about what you call stuff. You don't have to spend a week, but spend a day thinking about names, because you might choose a name that 3 years after you've chosen the name, it sounds silly, and then you have to change the name. The other thing I would say is just buy 2 lamps, 2 good quality LED lamps, put them on either side of your face, and then start shooting. Don't expect the overhead lights to illuminate everything, because trust me, spend $50 on lamps just to light your face, and you'll be happy. Those are my two pieces of
Anthony,
advice.
You've always had your lighting down. I got to give that to you, right?
I can show you some videos where I didn't, but
I'll tell you.
After about a year, I had my lighting down.
You raise a good point, because lighting is tough. When you're trying to shoot the actual object without shadows, like lighting is.
It takes an obscene amount of light to make something look natural on video. You wouldn't, I mean, if your eyes don't hurt looking at the lights, you probably don't have enough. And that is a limitation of camera technology, not your eyes. I mean, it just comes down to cameras, unless you're shooting with like a DSLR that can shoot, well-lit photos at night, they probably don't have a big enough sensor, and they're not fast enough to react. So you need obscene levels of light, and then on top of that, you have to adjust the camera to the amount of light, because if you get too much light, the camera might not be able to pick whether, the problem I found out real quickly is if you're going to have a lot of light on you, don't wear a pure black shirt, because the camera will try and resolve your black shirt and you'll end up looking like a ghost. So I had one of my best-selling courses. For the third video in that course, I wore a black sweatshirt, and my face, it looked like Casper the Ghost the whole way through that video. And so it doesn't take really expensive gear, but it takes, you know, a little bit of understanding about the relationship between how lights and cameras work together to get something that you'll still be proud of, you know, 5 or 8 years down the line.
I always say to people, it's more about the lighting than it is the camera. Like, although the camera can make a huge difference. If you have a great, you could get a red camera worth 50 grand and have a poorly lit room and it would look like crap. But if you had, you know, even your iPhone or whatever smartphone you use with good lighting, it's going to look great. So I always like Steve's lighting. He does something like that just looks cool. You got a really film-like look going on here, man. I don't know if it's just me, but I see like a Cine V type profile look or something. You've always managed to nail that sort of film look in your lighting. I don't know what it is, man. Maybe it's the nerd in me coming out, but
I'm trying to find it here, but I must have moved it. I use an 18% gray card. It's the best thing ever for the white balance, and I find that if I don't do it, the white balance doesn't lock in, and I'm looking a little orange, and I'm going back to a little blue, and then back to a little orange. The camera's trying to figure out in real time, because I have the lights aren't all the same, you know, Kelvin, right? I got a couple that are 4,000 Kelvin. I got one that's 6,500 Kelvin, and so you got to just pick one and go with that. And so I go. It's right around 5,500, maybe 6,000 Kelvin, and that seems to look the most natural. And lately, I just use an 18% gray card, and it's been working out great. Cool. You know, it looks good, and then you set the white balance, and then from there, it's. I find that the camera almost always overexposes. I almost always have to go under by like 1 or 1.5 f-stops before it starts to bring the detail out in my face. Before that, all the highlights are blown out. It really isn't. And again, it's probably because I'm wearing a black shirt. Guilty as charged. You know. But,
well, if you know how to adjust for it, then it's fine. It's when you let the camera decide how bright the picture should be that you get in trouble.
Right. No, I'm full on manual mode. And in fact,
what are you shooting with, by the way? Are you on a webcam, or do you have a camcorder through HDMI, or what?
Well, right now I'm on a webcam, and I just tweak it because it has a pretty decent app. The Logic has a pretty decent app. And then for my main stuff, it's just a Lumix G85.
Oh, nice.
Can I, Anthony? You're the lighting. I like your lighting. In your honest opinion, I'm using a webcam. How's this lighting? Is it off?
It's to one side of your face. I mean, the side of your face that's lit is lit pretty well. The white balance could be a little warmer, but yeah, basically that. Yeah, so basically the issue that I see with your picture right now is that all the lights. This probably just has to do with computer position. But other than that, other than having equal lighting on both sides of your face, like he was saying, you can download a utility. I don't know what it is called on Windows, but on Mac they have one called Webcam Settings. It's a very literal thing. And it allows you to tweak stuff with the webcam in terms of white balance, brightness, contrast. Depending on which camera it is, you can actually tweak the exposure time and everything like that. Yeah. Like I have it running right now. This is what the default setting would be for me.
Right.
Like this is how it would come out. And so I can bring the exposure down. I can fool with gain. I have a brightness control here. And then
what kind of camera are you using? A webcam?
For this right now is just a Logitech C930. This was the top of the line Logitech. But they have a 4K one now that I believe Shane has.
No, I don't like. I returned that. It doesn't work with the Mac.
Oh, it doesn't. Oh,
the Brio? Louis, the Brio. I'm using the Brio right now, the 4K one on the Mac. It's
really
plugged in and went. Yeah.
Wow. Cool.
Hey guys, had a lot of problems with it.
I got Dr. Rick's here as well.
Hi, Dr. Rick.
Hey, Dr. Rick.
Hey, how you doing? I tell you what, guys, I need to go shopping and buy a few more guitars. You guys have got some serious stuff.
That didn't take long.
Welcome, man. Good to have you on. I wasn't sure if you were still in the car or or what? when we spoke before, just before we went live, I wasn't sure if you were going to make it on. So cool stuff.
I just took my whole family out somewhere miles away so I can have a bit of quiet.
Yeah, nice. We had a question. Are any of you guys in a band, or do you play out much? I think Brett might have played out a couple of times. He might be guilty as charged there. I'm not too sure. He was talking about 20,000 person crowd recently.
Yeah, I'm in quite a few bands in Australia. Ross Wilson, James Rain, Daryl Braithwaite, probably all unknown overseas, but pretty well known in Australia. Played 20,000 odd last weekend, and working with Ross Wilson this evening. So gigs is my first source of income, and YouTube is the second, although YouTube is usurping it. So yeah, I'm a touring hack, hired gun.
Man,
That's
you make it look easy on your videos, dude. It's like one take, done, next. It's good.
One thing I'll chime in about here, Brett has probably my favorite on-camera demeanor of any demo guy on YouTube. Like,
thanks, man.
I have a 9-year-old son who could care less about guitar or anything like that. But when I put one of your videos on, like, he is listening. Oh, there's something about the way that you talk, and it feels like stream of consciousness. You have a very conversational thing. And I watch it, it's like, man, this guy is good.
I'm flattered. Thank you so much.
I'd like to jump on that sentiment and say that, Brett, what I like about your videos is, like, if I'm looking for a pedal, I don't feel like you're trying to sell it to me, right? You're just giving me, hey, here's the pedal, right? This is what it could do. Sometimes some, you know, like when there's something new, everyone's like, oh, it's the greatest thing ever. You got to get, you know, it's like, save the sales pitch, just give me the demo. You do a really good job of just focusing on, here's the product. You know, if it's right for you, great. If not, that's okay too. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, that's how I'd like to. That's what I want to see. So I kind of try to be objective in terms of conveying what I would like to see. And
right.
Yeah.
And so here's a good one, Australia.
If I could pile on to that,
I'm gonna check that out. That looks awesome.
Hey, if I could pile on to that, your video of the Keeley Dark Side was freaking awesome.
Which one?
The Keeley.
The Dark Side.
Oh, yeah.
Dark Side video, dude.
That was great.
When you were channeling your inner Floyd on that one, it was not exactly Floyd. It was Floyd-ish. And it was so good. That's the best Keeley demo out there for that pedal.
I might have actually commented on one of those. You were doing like a
totally flattered. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, Dave Gilmore, you know, he's been a huge influence on me. And I had drinks with him one night in Sydney, and although they didn't last long. And so it's just a melodic style that I've adopted, I think, and I'm not a shredder. I have no technical ability. I've got zero theory, so
I don't know about that, man.
I can invent a melody in my head, but anyway, enough about me, please. I don't like it.
So let's
thank you very much, you guys.
Let's talk about Shane's videos. So Shane, and I've told you this before. My favorite stuff was like your worst pedal demos, where like you had that like fuzz box, which was it was so much noise. You just put the guitar down, and you were like, you weren't even playing the guitar. You know,
just kept going and going. Yeah, I was like, well, I'm hitting notes. I can't even hear what they're doing, so I'll just use the. I
gotta be honest. I get that a lot in pedals. You don't get that feedback in a lot of pedals where if you crank up the overdrive and the volume, that thing just starts, and you have everything up, it starts to internally howl. Am I the only one that seems to happen to?
That happens here a lot.
Yeah, it just depends, I guess, on what it is. But this Red Witch fuzz was like uncontrollable. Like you couldn't stop it.
But that's what Ben went for when he invented it. He wanted it to self-isolate and go into complete chaos. You ask him, he's mad.
I don't get that. That was like, and I think it was the same video where you playing that like robot pedal.
Oh, the robot.
And you were
you
were laughing at it. You were like, what are you supposed to do with this thing? You know, that was like one of my favorite videos.
I realized early on YouTube, I should stick to what I think I understand as opposed to using pedals I have no musical ability with. Like this robot pedal, you hit one note and it would transform the waveform from like smooth into like square basically, and it would add all of these extra notes or notes behind it, extra noise and weird stuff. If you want to laugh, go look up the Death by Audio robot pedal. Arguably the most. I would never use that pedal for anything that I would ever play because, you know, just being like a blues hack sort of guy, I'm not. That's one of those things that just I had to laugh at it. Like my friend lent it to me. He goes, "Here, borrow these. These should be fun." I was like, "All right, I'll give them a go."
It's like that It's like the Miku pedal, the one that does like the Japanese stuff, sing along stuff. Same deal, like totally. But you could lose an hour or two just messing with the damn thing.
Oh, what one? Yeah. Have you guys got one of those?
No, I don't.
I borrowed one. That was it.
Do they still make it?
I think so.
But I'm going to go searching up as soon as we get off.
Oh, Anthony, I watched your April Fool's Day video too. That was so good.
Oh man,
I might have to do something like that with one of these random pedals next year. We'll see how we go.
For those of you who didn't see it, basically, I started doing April Fool's things. I think I was only 2 years in. I've been in this game for 10 years now, so I've got 10 years of sitting in front of a camera talking to people. I started doing April Fool's stuff. I think I was only 2 years into it, and I redid the header on my whole website back then. It was Stevie Snacks. I basically renamed it to Davey Snacks, and I said that I was going to switch the whole site over to Dave Matthews style. And I thought it was so far out there. Every year, the internet amazes me with how many people do not get sarcasm and what they will actually believe. So I had people back then said they were about ready to start crying when they saw that. So anyway, I haven't done it every year, but this year I had an idea that I was going to make a video where I basically told people I had a secret way of teaching them to play fast. And all I did was just pick fast and move my fingers fast. And I tried to make it sound so ridiculous that nobody could possibly take it seriously. And guess what? I'd say at least a tenth of the people who watched it got so absolutely furious that I was trying to pass this off as a lesson. And I just sat there. I was so happy as I was looking at how many thumbs down were coming in, because the only time I acknowledged it was an April Fool's joke was at the very end of the video. And there's like a mix of 10 to 1 of people laughing and saying April Fools or whatever, and people who are just absolutely incensed that somebody would try and pass this off as a lesson.
And you did it over Born Under a Bad Sign as well. So all the blues guys would just, they'd be fuming if they didn't.
That's the most fun I've had all year.
That's great.
One of my April Fool's videos was the 10 uses of the volume knob. And I was like, you could turn the volume off, right? You could like swell it, right? You could like do, and
that's
people
just
like
believable enough to be infuriating.
Exactly.
And that video sounded like me on a good night. Actually, it took me a while to realise it was a joke. I was a bit offended.
So Anthony, I was just looking. Your first video was 2007, October 21st, 2007.
That's right.
For some reason, I thought you were on before me, but I have you. No. I have you beat. I was. Hold on, let me look it up. November.
You might be thinking of Robert Redmon. Yeah, Robert Redmon. Of all the guys who are actively doing lessons, Robert Redmon was on in 2006, and I want to say that John Tuggle from Learning Guitar Now, the guy who does a lot of slide stuff, I want to say he started in 2006 too, but he and I are a little bit closer than in date than Robert Redmon. But yeah, it's 2006, 2007. That was the magical time.
Also, guys, I've got everybody's channels listed in the description of this video. If you're not familiar with everybody, punch in their details, and you can subscribe to their channels. A lot of these guys have been around for a while. I mean, Rick contributes to my channel. He's also got his own band channel as well. And we've also got Andrew here as well from the Guitar Geek channel. And we've got a.
You guys aren't watching Rick's camera right now. You're missing.
Hey, Sue. Hi, Sue.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, you gotta love it.
Welcome, Andrew, by the way. How are you, man? Thanks for jumping on.
I'm really good. Thanks for having me.
No worries. I know it's probably like ridiculous o'clock there, so.
Yeah, it's 3 a.m. I went for the whole stay up and try and stay on, but I ended up falling asleep with my telly on the sofa.
I thought you were in England, but obviously you're not. You're in Austria. Is that right?
I'm in Austria.
Okay, cool.
Not Australia, which everybody thinks I am. So.
Yeah. But you're from England originally?
Yeah, I'm British. I moved around a little bit and ended up here.
Yeah, nice. So you've been on YouTube, I guess, now for what, a couple of years, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, 2 whole years.
2 whole years. There we go. So,
well, it's my second channel, so the first one didn't work out so well. So I switched gears, and now I'm here.
Cool. I feel like I should have you Ubered a Red Bull or something. We'll just get you like
wake you right up.
A big thing of caffeine just to fire you up. For those who don't know Andrew's channel, if you're into Boss Katana amps and just guitar stuff in general, have a look. He's got some really great videos on the Katana. He's probably like the spokesperson for that. Like I was much the spokesperson for the original Mustang, and like Rick's the spokesman for the PV Bandit. Wow. Rick's one of the biggest gear snobs I know, and I say that lovingly, of course. But he made it. He made it onto the official PV Bandit like page on the website. So I thought that's pretty ironic or humorous, at least. Anyway,
you could say that Andrew is the Katana boss, huh?
Thanks very much.
Here's a question for everybody. I mean, we're going to be taking, if anyone has some questions for anybody or they want to direct the chat, go for it. I'm keeping an eye on the chat here. So actually, here's a question. What I'll send this out to everybody if it applies. But what overdrive does Anthony use? But what do we all use? So we'll go through what's our favorite current overdrive pedal. Here we go. This should be fun. If we use it, if we're not already using something more fancy.
I got 2. Lately, I've been doing the Keeley Ray Dorado with the Plexi.
Yep.
Strong. And then the Rev, which is really touchy on the EQ. And I find that there's at least 2 or 3 like pretty good styles I can get out of it.
Yeah.
One with the gain all the way down, and a certain setting with the EQ. One with the gain up a little bit, and the mid's actually cranked maxed out. Actually, it's a very good like woody tone, and then one that's more just like straight up high gain. Like woody tone. So lately, and then I get and this the Carl Martin DC5.
Okay, cool.
There you go. And scene.
There you go.
How about you, Rick? Go, Nick. Yeah, go ahead, man.
For me, I'm super simple. J-Rad Archer for the clonny type stuff, and then Maxon 808 for everything else.
Yeah,
I've tried it 10,000 things, and you can't go wrong with those 2 guys to get one way or the other.
Totally. I absolutely agree.
That's not like my favorite stuff. That's just like what I've been checking out lately, and I've been sort of digging in the last couple of weeks.
So what's your favorite, Steve?
You go first.
You show me yours, I'll show you mine.
I know you. You are probably right now.
I know. I own a lot of pedals, as you could all probably imagine. But I'll tell you what, if I had to grab one, probably the most predictable overdrive pedal for me is a Boss Super Overdrive. I know what I'm going to get out of it. I know exactly where to put the knobs. I know how it will react with an amp. Is it the best? Probably not. I mean, I got like VFE overdrive pedals that have sound phenomenal, and but just from like if I would grab one, if I wanted a overdrive, I'd probably just grab the Boss. It's the easy button for me with overdrives.
Yeah, cool. Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
I actually like that Pride of Texas and that Cash Cow.
Oh, that's great, man.
I
That
thought that
Pride of Texas is gnarly, hey? It's got
that's
so much
good.
attitude.
it's a stronger pedal than you think it's going to be.
Yeah. I actually did my demo through my 2 notes, and then I took that pedal out and played live, and I was like, holy crap, this thing is loud. Like the output is so loud. That's the one downside of using the 2 notes or whatever. You don't get a full sense of volume. You know that it's getting louder when you turn it on, but when you play it live or through an amp acoustically, like, man, that's loud. Like that, it's got to be one of the loudest output pedals I've tried this year, whenever.
I thought that too. 9 o'clock. These are good.
Brutal.
Do you know this one?
No. Oh, Buffalo Effects. Yeah. I love their Carrera Overdrive. I don't know what that one is though. DDX.
It's the old Chandler tube driver.
Really?
Yeah. Hence the TD. And he's just got a low EQ and a gain and a level. But Steve, his name is Steve Painter. He's an Englishman that lives in France, however you like to say it. And he's done quite a few good pedals. And this has have to be right up there with the do not sell, after 1200 Overdrive.
Is there a bell thing, Brett?
No, it's solid state. But it's highly recommended.
Yeah, my 2 favorite would be the Buffalo Effects Carrera Overdrive. I've had that on my board since I got it, and the Royal Flush dual overdrive pedal from VS Audio. Have you tried the VS Audio stuff, Brett?
No.
I'll see if I can maybe get you some, because they're unreal, man. Like, just they're easy. No stupid toggle switches that reduce the quality of the sound. They're just very simple and they work. And Rick knows that's been on my board since day one. Basically, it's been great.
There's my day one.
Wow.
Oh wow. Well, I should say since day one of me actually owning it, as opposed to early on, Tube Screamer.
There's the real day one.
Now, what is that?
The old Shinai Companion Fuzzwah.
Oh wow.
Oh man.
I have a question for everyone.
Okay, hold on.
Here we go.
Oh no.
Hold on.
It's day one pedal time, fellas.
All right. While he's looking for that, I'll show you some of my favorites here. My go-to Tube Screamer style overdrive is the Wampler Clarksdale.
Yeah, that's a
because it does everything that a Tube Screamer does. Plus, it has the active 3-band EQ, which I find useful.
Yep.
For my Stevie Ray tone, when I don't have the opportunity to have Stevie Ray volume, I use the Love Pedal Super 6 Stevie Mod, which sounds uncannily like the Stevie Ray Vaughan in a box. Like, it's almost unreal how much this thing captures his tone. And then for octave, I don't see these guys around much, but I have a Maliko Helium. This is a Wolf something fuzz. It's basically got a whole bunch of knobs that all change how the octave sounds. It's really, really useful. So it does have fuzz, and you can mix between the octave and the fuzz. So I only use that occasionally, but those are my probably 3 of the last pedals that I would sell if I had to get rid of my collection.
Cool. How about you, Andrew? What are you using these days? I know you're the boss Katana man, but do you ever use effects going straight in, or?
Yeah, I've also got another couple of amps hanging around. This is kind of my day one. Just
yeah,
beautiful.
This I got in a closing down sale for £15, and I hated it because it didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And, I was really into the DS one at the time, and I thought, well, what does this thing do? It doesn't do a certain thing. And it lived in my cupboard for ages, and then suddenly it was cool. So I dug it out, and it is a pedal.
Nice. It looks pretty old school. Like, what are they, from the 90s or something? Are they? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I picked it up in, I don't know, 97, 98, something like that. So it was hanging around in the shop for many, many years, and I picked it up just because. Bad Monkey. That's my favorite Tube Screamer at the moment.
Yeah, they're cool.
I got one of those.
Yeah, me too.
It's just good. It's only got a 2-band EQ, but I just think it does what it needs to do with a little bit extra. and then I've got my Boss SD2, which kind of does what the SD1 does plus a bit more, and
does one more.
Yeah, it's twice as good.
One better.
So does this do 3 more? Or...
Yeah. You know, you still see guys touring that still stick by those pedals. I forget who it was I was watching an interview with, and basically they've just always used this one Boss Overdrive, and it's good enough for them. They've never seen any reason to get into this boutique stuff. They just
the thing with the Boss pedals is, right, they work great, but they don't look as cool as a lot of these other pedals. So they never change their design, really. Like, they still look the same as they did day one. And I think people are drawn to the fancy painted boxes and the cool graphics and the cool controls. But realistically, you could do a gig with a bog standard Tube Screamer from Ibanez or a blues driver, and you'd be fine. Like, no one would complain. So
come on, a cool paint job sounds better. You know that.
Yeah.
No. The best is when you see the guy. There still are tons of bands, especially local bands, that tour with a Line 6 Pod 2.0, the little red bean, that just is a bunch of reference tones for a whole series of genres of music. But it's great because you'll see that next to, you know, some really great pedals on both sides of it. But that's just hanging out like, hey, still here, still doing it.
What's your main go-to nowadays, Rick? What's your? I mean, I know the answer to this, but
yeah, it's stuck on my pedal board downstairs, and I don't want to open the door because more kids will come in. So I've got a photo of it on my phone.
Oh, there we go.
And it's
that's a shirtless photo, Rick. You sure that's the right one?
Okay. So, shivers. So this good mate of mine, who's a quantum physicist by day and mad scientist, Unibomber by night, he's invented this overdrive called the Over Unity, and it's gone through so many prototypes, and I plug in and have a play and say, no, that sucks. And anyway, this is probably 10 years of work. So this is about to go into production. It's a 2-stage overdrive with the toggle switches that Shane loves because it gets him into trouble. And
no, that's right. There's no kill switches on that one. That's all right. It's the kill switch ones I have problems with. I'm trying to find it. I got one of them somewhere too. I must have moved it. But yeah, I still haven't really used it yet.
Yeah, so that's my main go-to. Before that, it was the Jan Ray, which is a Timmy and an expensive brass box. But the pedal I've had for the longest time is actually made by Pete Cornish. It's called an NB2, just a clean booster and a line driver. And even when it's not on, it just makes things brighter. I think we could get into that conversation about buffers, etc., true versus true bypass. But I just noticed when it's in the chain, the top end for me is a lot better preserved. And when I roll down the volume knob, it doesn't get all dark. So that's my secret weapon.
Yeah, cool. And they're kind of primarily designed to, the Over Unity is more of a pushing a dirty channel amp. Is that right?
Yeah, look, it can do both. But yeah, when it does push a dirty channel or just an amp on the verge of overdrive, it introduces some harmonic content that it's kind of weird. It's more like a feel thing. It just, it just really takes off in a very sort of musical way. So it's different from, say, a clon, which in isolations might sound a bit sort of ugly and MIDI. It just puts these very pleasant, even order harmonics into the tone.
Cool. And for those who haven't seen any of, I'd be surprised if there's anyone who hasn't seen any of Rick's stuff, even on the In the Blues channel or his live stuff. Go check him out, man. He plays great. So he's one of the few guys that can play almost everything and do it well. So it'd be a good jam session between Rick and Brett one day, or any of you guys. You can rock out. I know Rick knows a lot of the hits.
I know most of the misses too, actually.
So we've got Landon from Lando 27 Music here as well in Canada. Welcome, man. Thanks for dropping in.
How's it going?
How you doing? Good.
You know what's embarrassing? I've been on this chat for I don't even know how long, and I only now realize that I can click on your thumbnails to see your video. I've been squinting squinting at your thumbnails, trying to figure out who's who, and I only now realize that I can click on them to bring up. I'm sorry, I just thought that I would share that in case somebody else wants to use it.
That's all right. Yeah. I basically I can do the same thing, but I can control where the camera stays if I need to. If someone's like, talking while someone else is showing something, I can move the camera around. I wasn't sure if someone else did that, it would mess with the stream, but obviously not. So
no, it's just for whatever you're looking at as a member of the chat. Like when Steve was talking about his lighting, I realized, hey, I can click on his thing, and now I can actually see his picture.
Yeah. So Shane,
we'll click on it now.
I think. Okay.
So go ahead, Steve.
Oh, nice.
Moot.
Is that for a sewing machine? What is that?
That's what it looks like.
You plug it in. It has an extra long cable that has to be plugged into the wall.
It's so old school. You have to solder it in place.
It's a Mutron. If you remember Mutron, I bought this in 1981.
Wow.
And the weird thing about this, it's a wah-wah pedal. It's a volume wah, but you see that little screw on the side. That's actually a gain stage inside. And so I used to run this into a Fender Twin. You could pull the volume out on the Twin and give it a little bit of an overdrive. And then you put this on the side and crank that up. And then just you're one MXR Distortion Plus away from like the greatest sound ever. And I used to use this one a lot. So this is probably my oldest pedal by far. I can't think of an older one in my collection. Anyway.
Yeah, wow, cool.
Sorry, I joined in late. Sorry, you guys are talking about your favorite go-to pedals?
Yeah, favorite Overdrive or favorite whatever.
That or your day one pedal.
It's got something in my back pocket here. Just pull it out there. I don't know if that's gonna.
Oh, there it is.
Metal Zone.
Okay.
Brian Wampler's favorite pedal.
Good night, everybody.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's fantastic. That's great.
Actually, I don't really have a favorite. No, can't really say I have a favorite. I got too many.
It gets harder the more pedals you try because these days, everything's good. There was a day where you could actually go to a store and half the stuff you'd try would actually not sound good. But there's so much good stuff being made right now.
Yeah, you're right. And yeah, there's so many things doing something so similar to something else, well. That's the other thing. Sorry, Lewis, you're about to ask something before. I can't remember.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think because this is your show, if you highlight a thumbnail, that will make it active for the viewers, I think.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I try to keep on top of that. Sometimes I forget. But no. All right, so we've got a question here. It's come up a couple times. What are our thoughts on the Hughes & Kettner Tubemeister 18? Now, I don't know much about Hughes & Kettner amps other than their 2x12 30-watt one, I think it was. I've tried that, but I haven't tried that actual Tubemeister 18. So if anyone's tried it, feel free to let us know. Is that what that is back there, Steve?
That's awesome. It's a Grandmeister 40.
Okay.
I don't know what it shares with the Tubemeister, other than maybe the same gain stages. I don't even really know. This has more like effects in it. So I think Grandmeister has effects. The Tubemeister series is just straight up tube amp with maybe a reverb. I'm not really sure.
Can you turn it on? They're pretty to look at.
Yeah, right? Exactly what I was going to say. I know it's pretty.
Even if it doesn't say.
This is what's going on around
I
Christmas.
take back my previous lighting advice. All you have to do is get 2 of those amps and put them on the other side of your face.
Exactly.
You hear that, Hughes & Kettner?
Hey, Steve, what's that new amp underneath for Hughes & Kettner, by the way? Is that new?
This one? Yeah, it's brand new. Viper.
Is it still on track for the 2020 video?
This, but I just put a massive 2-hour review up on my channel.
No, you didn't. No way. Whenever you do
my bucket list,
whenever you do the video of that, it's going to go viral, man. I'll share it and do all kinds of stuff for you. People are waiting to hear that thing.
Every April 1st, I really want to I should just break out the Viper.
And you got to do it.
Say, all right, I'm going to do the Viper review and then just straight to Iwi.
Straight to what? Sorry.
Iwi? You don't know my, that's been a thing.
Oh, no, I'm not sure I get that reference, actually. Sorry, Dave. But I get the whole PV Viper thing.
Yeah,
So for those who don't know what that is, Steve got it years ago direct from PV, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they sent it to me.
Yeah, and it's never been on. It's never made a video. I don't know if he's even actually turned it on or not.
And I have turned it on.
Okay.
It's like the best amp ever. Now listen, I could turn it on and we could listen to it and you could hear it, but let me just describe it to you. Okay.
Hold on, let me adjust my lighting and close my eyes.
Exactly. It's got the the soaring scream of 1,000 eagles and the thumping thump of 1,000 basses.
This is the part where we pass the joint from little square to little square across the bottom from country to country to place. Everyone gets a little smoky in the background.
Here's my review. It's good.
There we go.
Oh.
Steve from Boston.
It's actually really good. I gotta say, I think I told this story before. I thought they were sending me a mini 6505 plus, right? That they had just come out with the little mini 6505, and I didn't know. The guy goes, "Listen, hey, we're going to send you something." I said, "Okay." He said, "And just so you know, you can keep it." And so I'm like, "Well, that doesn't sound like a mug, you know." It's like, so I had no idea what was coming. Then I missed it, and I saw the weight. I saw the, how much it weighed, and I was like, "Oh." So I start like scouring their website for like all their different amps to see like which amp are they sending me and all this stuff. And I narrowed it down between this and the 6505 plus, and me and Robert Baker were going back and forth. And he's like, "It's the 6505 plus. Don't worry, it's the 6505 plus." Came off the truck and it was the Viper, and Baker was like, "You just got Viper, bro." And I was like, I wanted that 6505 so bad, but I got the Viper, so I was all like, all right, which is ridiculous because it's it's like a free amp. It's like, I mean, please, it's ridiculous. So I all right, I guess I'll turn this stupid thing on, and I spent the whole weekend going, like, texting Baker going, "I was totally wrong. I completely apologize. This amp is killer," and it really is. It really is. It's an amazing amp. I think I really do think it sounds great. I'm not good with miking, and it doesn't have a speaker out, so I can't go directly into a load box. And that's really what's kept me from doing it, because I'm really not good at miking up amps.
The easiest way, just put a mic, find dead center, and then move it up halfway between the edge and the center.
You think so? You think mid cone?
Yeah, never right in the center. You'll just it'll sound too fizzy.
I just want to call attention to what I think might be the greatest comment I've ever seen. A few comments back, Mario Kane said, "Steve's Viper review is the Half-Life 3 of gear reviews." I don't know if any of you are gamers.
Yeah, I get that.
Calling something the Half-Life 3, never that is.
Still waiting.
Looks like we have an extra guest here. Rick, who's this?
She was just scratching at the door, so I said, "You better come in and see what's going on."
The tank. She's a little tank.
Yeah, she's been in quite a few of our gear videos too.
Yep.
Yeah,
what's her name?
Lexi, but she responds to stupid, dopey, smelly. Hey, and she's deaf.
And
deaf?
muffles as well. Well, she lives with you, Greg. The guitar meister.
Gentlemen, I have to leave, unfortunately. Thanks for having me, and have an incredible day.
Great.
Thanks so much, man.
You too, man.
Okay, thank you, buddy.
Nice to meet
See
you,
you, Brett.
See
you, Brett.
Thanks again.
Take care.
Yeah, Brett gave me the heads up. He had an appointment right about now, so that was cool. So yeah. If you don't know Brett's channel, everybody in the chat, check him out. He's the pedal demo king. I think he's pretty much done more than anybody, even me. Like that's one a day is his thing. So he's got pretty much a pedal going up every day of the year. He keeps pretty busy on there.
He's the only Aussie on the chat who can play guitar. So see you later.
Oh,
Thanks,
Dr.
man.
Rick with the sick burn. Do you guys remember? Boy, how's that for a segue? Do you remember the old Ibanez Tube King pedal?
I have one
back
of those.
in the '90s. It had a real tube inside, and it sounded terrible.
Yeah.
That was my day one pedal, and I sold it. That was the first pedal I ever had, and I sold it. I don't know why. I don't think it sounded that great, but now you can't find them anymore.
I have that one and the red one that came after.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it'd be one of these, I guess.
Well, that's the newer one.
The gold colored one. What? Who? I'm looking at Shane here. Yes, that one.
So what's interesting is if you open that up, it has what is it? Butler.
BK Butler.
Yeah, BK Butler. On the circuit board. I think he made it.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I have one of those BK Butler.
Hey, the Tone King.
What's it called? Tube Drive?
Look at that.
Let me go get it. Hang on.
Cool.
Because the Butler Tube Driver sounds great. So
yeah,
I'm not sure how his name ended up on the Ibanez.
Well, I was running it into a Fender Twin, and could not turn up the Twin very loud. So. And also, I had only been playing guitar for years, so that might have had something to do with it.
But it was Fender Twin is a pedal killer. I've had trouble with Fender Twins and pedals.
Well, it's just so massive. I mean, it's not forgiving at all. It's like plugging your pedals into a brick wall, basically. I mean, it doesn't.
They've got a really tough sound. A lot of Twins, like if you plug into a DeVille, they're kind of smooth and round in the low, and they got this really nice sort of shimmery top end, where a Twin is just like a punch in the face. Like they're a more direct, sort of less a dynamic sort of sound, but just huge in their own way. Oh, we got
great cleans.
What are you doing, Lewis?
He's got a screwdriver.
He's taking it apart.
It looks like he's modifying his LED shirt.
Yeah, kids, you can't get this anywhere else. He's going to take the pedal apart live for you right now and show you it.
So this is the pedal, right?
Yeah.
And what's interesting about this is, if you look on the back, it's patent BK Butler. I don't know if you hold on. Let me see if I could capture this in the lighting here.
If you tilt it towards the light a little bit,
pull it back just a hair.
Yeah, keep going. Oh yeah, look at that.
You got to talk, Tone King.
Talk. So you go forward.
Testing. Hello. So that's the. So I think
upside down.
Yeah. So I think if you get the BK, whatever the BK Butler pedal is, I think that's it. But this was Oh, the difference is the BK Butler had a transformer in the pedal. And it's funny. I think what is it? What was the BK Butler pedal called? The something driver?
Yeah, Tube
Driver.
Tube Driver.
So,
and that one, the Tube Driver that I have plugs right into the wall. I think.
Right.
Yeah. See, this one I always thought was pretty good. The red one, which I also own, very harsh.
Oh, really?
This one I thought was okay. Yeah.
They did two different versions of that pedal because I had a buddy that had one at the same time that I did, and his sounded noticeably glassier than mine. I think he might have had a different brand of preamp tube in there or something. But yeah, mine was more crunchy, and his had a much more glassy high end, and it was the same pedal from the same era. It was very interesting.
It depends on the voltage that the valve runs at as well. I think the fact that yours plugged into the wall, Anthony, to me it probably says that it probably ran the tube at a much higher voltage.
Oh, okay.
This is a 1996. That's
that would have been. Maybe that's mine. What I'm trying to figure out is how in the world did I get rid of it? Because eBay didn't exist back then. What did I do with that? I probably traded it for something.
Yeah.
Most of my pedals that I had back then, I modded to the point of destroying them. Because I wasn't, my soldering skills weren't quite what they should have been.
Here's a good thing for everybody. I know this is a little bit of a cliche topic, but I kind of like finding out hidden gems. I always like to find out what surprised somebody the most that they've used or had a chance to test that they had no expectations on. So
what's the question?
Has anyone actually tried anything that sort of exceeded their expectations in terms of gear that you had like no interest in? You went, oh wow, this is actually really good. Other than your power drill, Lewis.
What does Nick have there?
This is a stupid Squire Bullet Mustang with 2 humbuckers. It's blingy. They're like $100 used, $150 new. These are very musical, not sucking. There you go, not sucking humbuckers. They're quite good. They actually sound. It's stupid. It shouldn't be good. I picked it up as a lark because it was a cheap thing to do a video for, and a buddy of mine got one. And then I played it through my favorite amps, and it was surprisingly not crappy. And I was going to swap them out, maybe do a project. I'm like, no, $100.
Wow.
So Anthony's got one of these as well. Have you used the same guitar? Sorry, Anthony. Is that the?
No, that's all right. Oh wow, look at that. Have you guys found in general that the low-end Fender stuff, the Chinese-made stuff, has gotten surprisingly good?
Yes,
quality-wise. Yeah. Like, I mean, I had a Squire back in the mid '90s, and when I see the stuff, what you can get for $200 today, it's just kind of crazy how well built it is.
Yeah, that's $200 US dollars, 2,000 Australian dollars. That's how that works.
With the conversion rate being screw you.
Yeah.
Just today, I was in a music store, and it was a matte black reverse headstock Squire, active pickups. They said Squire, but they were active pickups and a Floyd. It actually said Floyd Rose. It was $300.
Oh, the new Contemporary Series one. I think it's a Contemporary Series one. Crazy.
And it felt good. No fret sprout. I mean, it felt really good. I was shocked.
They're really good. The dual humbucker Tally Squire Contemporary one was it's a great sounding guitar too. That really usable. It almost sounds like a Les Paul in the body of a Tally. So it's kind of cool. But yeah, you can't go wrong with the Chinese stuff. Sorry, Nick, go ahead.
Just buy one of these because no matter what wood, when you get it out of the box, it'll be smooth. It's a little T-shaped metal thing with sanding paper, so you can sand down the burrs on the edges of the frets. Because those necks will all shrink in your first month and a half of ownership. They just don't let the wood dry out, so she's just going to shrink, and then it starts to bite you after you've bought it and fallen in love with it. But eBay.
Did you make that?
No, eBay has these. There's a place that sells this, a fret rocker. This is a fret rocker and one other thing. And it's like $25 or $30. And you get a bunch of these that they peel off. You put another one on, they're sticky adhesive. But this is the best thing if you're going to buy cheap guitars. And 5 minutes, boom, you're done.
What do you call that? What is it labeled as on eBay?
Let me quickly check on eBay. It's like a fret end level or something like that. Fret end.
The fret detoother.
Exactly.
While Nick's looking up that, mine would have to be this $14 SM57 clone that I picked up off Amazon.
I can't bring myself to watch that video.
It was great. That was great, man.
I did the video differently to normal. Like I had no. I just bought it without any expectation, seeing if it was any good or not. And surprisingly good. I made the video different to a lot of my other videos too, just to mix things up. And it's great. Like I just had Gil in the chat say he bought 5 of them yesterday and received them today. He goes, 100% satisfied. Couldn't go wrong for the price. Thanks again. They're down to $12 now. So.
What item is this?
It's an SM57. It's called a Pile PDM 78 or something like that. Really great. I've got this new series of videos I'm putting together, like music gear on a budget. So stuff that you can buy cheap, and it's either going to be crap, and I'll say it's crap, or it'll be good. And there you go. We might find some hidden gems. So the actual mic is great because I got 57s, and they do sound a little different, but not in a bad way. Just a little bit different, so hopefully they last.
Fret and bevel beam. If you search for fret and bevel beam, and they go for $12 with $3 shipping in the United States. Just buy one.
I could buy a microphone for that price.
Right, exactly. It's no pile microphone, but it'll have to do.
Put some sandpaper on the edge of the microphone.
Check it out if you feel desperate enough to want a cheap microphone. Give that video a look. I compare it to a 57. So
it's really good. It's a great video.
Thanks. I'm trying to this year. Always I'm trying to do something a little bit different, but this series should be fun because much like Nick, I don't mind finding cheap stuff that's good. You know, it's always fun.
That's one of the things that I love about your channel is that because gear isn't my job, like I have to put so much time and effort into the courses. So when I do end up doing stuff with gear, it tends to be, you know, stuff that I would want to buy for myself or something like that. So it ends up being, you know, more of the boutique level stuff. But I get asked all the time, you know, why don't you do more demos of this other gear stuff that's, you know, from some of the more budget conscious companies. And it comes down to time, you know, and that's what I love about your channel is there literally is nothing too inexpensive that Shane will not make a video for it. And I just love it.
I learned from Rick. Rick inspired me to get bottom of the barrel sort of stuff. He's
that's total rubbish, man.
You know how it all started? My first pedal demo back in 2007 was the Behringer TO800 Overdrive, right? And I didn't know people put videos of gear on YouTube, and I did that, and I had an audience. I was like, kind of weird that 1,000 people watched this within a week, and then, you know, that video took off. And over the years, I found like, you know, I ran a poll on my channel recently to sort of see, like I cut back on doing pedal demos. Less than one a week has been going up lately, which for me is like, you know, a whole lot less. And I said, who would want to see more cheaper pedal demos back on the channel? And 90% of the people said yes, and had over 1,000 votes. So, or 1,500 votes in. So we're gonna feature Rick on those videos.
Not a chance, mate.
But no, there is a huge audience for it, and I think like because there's so much stuff out there, you're not going to blow your money if you buy something that's $30 as opposed to 200. And if they sound comparable to, and they might stand up okay long term, then it's good for folks to kind of, or maybe even not less serious musos to give them a go. I mean, nothing on my board really is that cheap at the moment, but I've used cheap pedals for years, and I played live with my Behringer TO800 and my Voodoo Lab Sparkle Drive back to back for years. They were my two tube screamers. So, you know, some of this stuff's all right. I just like finding stuff that sounds good. I don't care what price it is. But if it's junk, like some of that Oral Dream stuff that they sent me a while back, then I'm not going to go anywhere near that. But yeah, I don't know. Just mix it up. Try and find some cheap stuff.
Hey, Shane, I'm going to have to jump, but I wanted to thank you for inviting me tonight. And I just wanted to thank everyone for hanging out. So,
hey, thank you. Thanks for joining.
Appreciate
it, man.
Okay. And everyone in the comments, thanks so much. Have a great night. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you.
I'll be in touch, man. Thanks.
You got it. Thanks, guys.
You know, I think with the cheaper pedals, like, you know, along the same lines as, you know, the low end guitar manufacturing getting really good. I think one of the difference between cheap, like truly cheap pedals today and cheap pedals back when I was first learning is that you can actually get decent tones from cheap pedals today. Whereas back when I was learning, all you had was those Dan Electro pedals, the plastic ones. And if you chained 4 or 5 of those together, your tone just was, you barely had enough signal left to get any sound out of your amp. They were so bad.
The worst ones I've ever played are a brand called Livingston. They're like you find them in Aldi or Aldi, however you want to pronounce it, that supermarket chain. And I bought one of their flanges, and it was easily the noisiest. Like you plug it in and it would make noise, right? You'd hear just having it plugged in, and then when you turned it on, man, it was just the worst, the noisiest, crappiest pedal I've ever played in my life.
You've never sounded better, mate.
Yeah, thanks, mate. That's the secret to my tone, man. Just stack a whole lot of Livingston pedals together. But I've actually still got one of those original Dan Electros, Anthony. One of the Fab Overdrives, I think it's called.
Well, that was the higher series, wasn't it?
Oh,
Like
I don't know, but that was all right on the bridge pickup, but it had
Fat
no
tone.
It didn't have enough.
There was a Daddy-O. They had the big solid metal ones, the series that the Cool Cat chorus, those were fine. And some of those even did 18 volts, which back then not many things did. I'm talking about the little, like the Chili Dog and the, I don't know what the green one was called, but they were like soup. I mean, if you stepped on them, they would break. And I mean, I was buying these when I was in college, and I think that I was getting them on sale for like $20 a piece. So I had a whole pedal board full of these things, and I used them well until after I graduated and I had a real job and everything. And one day I somehow plugged my guitar directly into the amp, and I was like, whoa, what is that?
Yeah. Man. We just had Nick Vaz use the super chat here. He says, "What's the story with Anthony can't use Stevie Snack's name?" The story. Oh, sorry. He says the story why Anthony can't use Stevie Snack's name. Question mark. So I guess he's asking what was the reason for changing the channel's name.
I have some videos about that you can find way back about why I changed the name. But basically, what it comes down to is that Stevie Snacks took off without me having any kind of a plan. And so the Stevie Snacks name was just something that I thought up, 5 minutes before I put up my third video or something like that. And unfortunately, it caught on. And by the time I thought about changing it to something a little more professional sounding, it was already getting known. And so it wasn't wise at that time to change it. But then after I had been doing it for 6 years, I realized that I wasn't that happy because I hadn't got a chance to really design the face of my business, the way that the same amount of work that I put into my courses, I wanted to put that same amount of thought into my business. And I never had that chance because it took off from a hobby by accident. And so that's when I switched it over to Texas Blues Alley. It was basically, I was taking kind of the soul of what Stevie Snacks was and putting it in a container that was more representative of what I truly felt and everything like that. So it has nothing to do with not being able to use it. It has everything to do with when I go to a NAMM show and people ask what I do. If I told them Stevie Snacks, they have no idea what that is. At least with Texas Blues Alley, that name alone communicates something about the content and the intent behind it. So yeah, it was a personal choice.
Cool. Showman Blues asks, I have a question for Steve from Boston. What camera and software are you using? Not editing software.
You mean right now for this broadcast, or you mean for when I record pre-recorded videos?
Yeah, I would probably say pre-recorded ones.
Lumic G85.
You got me onto one of those, mate. They're great.
Right?
Yeah,
right.
I've got one up there, actually, on the speaker up there.
Yeah. And I told you not to get the GH5. I said, no, G85. You're like, no.
I thought I needed the GH5. The marketing suckered me in, man, and I was like, I'm going to get this camera. And then I realized,
if you were making films, maybe, but when you're putting stuff on YouTube, man.
No, you know what? I don't regret.
A little goes a long way.
It is. It's got its absolute benefits as well over the G85. Mostly battery life. I can hook a XLR adapter up. I got free with it as well, so I got 2 XLR ins, and there's certain things about it. I got 2 SD card slots, so I can just let it run.
Right.
So there's a few things about it that are good, but picture quality and just functionality, they're identical, minus one small thing with the extra frame rate and all that. But you're absolutely right. You don't need a GH5 to produce YouTube videos. But I'm glad I got it, because there's times where I'm going to be producing videos for other people, and having a camera like that is going to be.
Well, it has a bigger sensor too, doesn't it? In the G85. Yeah, so that'll come in. That'll come in handy for certain kinds of shots.
I think they're both micro 4/3.
Yeah, I think it's the identical sensor.
Yeah. Was it the GH5S that's the full frame?
Yeah, that's the next one up. Yeah, that came out the day after I bought mine. So it's also $1,000 more. So I'm, at least in Australia. So I decided that the one I had was fine. But the Panasonic cameras, Steve, you converted me, man. I've still got my Sony because I love the stabilizer in that. That's great for doing like outdoor stuff. Yeah, there's something to be said for just the way that the Panasonic.
He was asking what software I do Adobe Premiere.
Cool. I haven't actually used that yet. I've been using Final Cut for the last couple of years, about 2 years.
Premiere's so clumsy. If you're coming from the Mac stack, Premiere's just a pain because you have to learn more. Once you get good at it, I'm sure it's awesome, but it's just a tough curve.
All right, so let's see if we've got any other questions here.
Shane John's been asking that. I've seen him ask that question a couple of times there. Said the 351 about dusting your guitars.
I'm not sure what was the question.
Let's see. You guys that have their guitars on the wall or out on stands, how often do you have to dust them, clean them? Never.
When I pick it up, and I'm like, God, this thing's filthy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I pay Fender thousands of dollars for that look, so never.
Yeah.
I'm terrible. I try and keep it humidified during the winter, but other than that, they're lucky if they have a fresh set of strings on. I have probably 10 or 12 different guitars, and I play about 3 of them regularly.
Yeah, we don't really have. Well, I don't usually keep too many of them out. And the ones that I do keep out are the ones I'm using usually for that day. But I try to keep mine in their cases most of the time. Plus, I'm renting, so I can't go like just drill holes into the wall and hang my guitars up. Sadly. So it does look good. I mean, look at Nick's backdrop there and Steve's and Landon's as well. It's definitely cool.
Well, you can do that when you're renting. It just depends how good you are at patching drywall.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, how do you get that red wall you've got in your videos? It's so like full on. What was that? Was that a choice, or is your house like this crazy color?
Is that me? The one with the red wall?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's the acoustic treatment of the room. It's a product from Germany, Isotech, and then it's a fabric from IKEA, which is
I just thought it was paint. Cool.
No, I built it in. It's people think it's a mattress, but it's not. And I've got it on the ceiling, and I've got it here, and people like to come in and just poke holes in it, and it really annoys me.
Yeah, your videos look very different because of that. Every time I watch one of your videos and I see that room, I'm like, man, it just looks so it's got this really cool sort of bright contrasty thing going on, and I was like, I wonder if that's paint or whether it's some sort of I don't know, wallpaper or something. I wasn't sure what you had, but yeah.
It's fabric. It's stuck on there. It's my two favorite colors, and that's how I got the logo for the channel as well. And again, a happy accident.
Yeah, cool. So, which of you guys are heading over to some of those events that are coming up? I know there's a couple that are coming up. They got the GeekCon in, is it October? And
October, yeah.
And there's one next week, is that right? Or the week after?
Next week.
I'm going to
TGU.
Next week.
I was going, and now I can't go, and that's what sucked. We had some family stuff come up. My daughter got really, really sick, so sadly I won't go. I'm jealous. I would have probably been on the same flight as Steve. But it looks awesome. It's a really pretty spot too.
Cool.
It's in the middle of nowhere.
It's a 3-hour drive for me, so I get to go. Are you coming, Steve?
I am.
Cool.
I'll be there.
It's gonna be fun.
I got my lederhosen out.
You got your what, sorry? I didn't do what he said.
Lederhosen.
They're leather shorts, very tightly fitted leather shorts. So stand up, Steve. See.
It's not pretty. No. It should be good. It should be good. And I don't know what's going on with GitCon. It's like I hear it's on, it's off. I'm not really sure.
Well,
I'm doing Summer NAMM. Anyone else doing Summer NAMM? No?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah, I'm doing Summer NAMM.
Awesome.
I actually got an email about GeekCon from one of the guys that runs it, because I didn't go last year, obviously. I didn't think I'd get invited again, but yeah, I've received an email about it. I've asked the guy a few questions just to see what the story is, and the only way I'd go is if if I could get Dr. Rick over there as well. So we'll see. We'll see if that can be hooked up. But look, I don't know. I mean, I replied to this guy a few days ago and didn't hear back. So I might have been pushing my luck.
I just went to
Framus, sorry. GitCon's run by Framus, and this other one's Toman, right?
No, Warwick Framus.
Okay.
I just went to the Dallas International Guitar Show, and that was actually really cool. Yeah,
I saw you pop up on one of Robert Baker's videos. Have you posted any videos from there, or I don't recall? No. Oh yeah, I don't recall seeing it. Yeah, okay, that explains that.
I haven't. Please, it's just been one thing after another. You know, every time I turn around, I have to chauffeur a kid to some other doctor appointment.
Yeah.
You know, back when they were asking if any of us are in bands, I had a joke that I forgot it, and it was that I'm in a band called the Desperate Parents, and I've been in it for 9 years.
Yeah. Me too.
So is the Dallas Guitar Show, is that primarily a vintage guitar show?
It's mixed. It's both new and vintage, but what's way cool is like Paul Reed Smith was just walking around, and you know, Seymour Duncan was just walking around, and Greg Koch was just walking around, and Eric Johnson was just walking around.
Now, is that
saying it's full of guitar hacks?
Is that the premier guitar show in Texas, or is there another big one?
Apparently, there's another one, the Arlington show.
The Arlington.
Okay.
So, but a lot of people said they like
me about it.
That this one feels more homey, and the other one's a little bit more like NAMM, and that it's a little bit more, I think.
Okay.
This one had a lot of live music stages and stuff, and
oh wow!
Was that it was the same weekend as the NRA convention when Trump was in town, and you can imagine that changed traffic patterns in the area slightly, because there was a lot more people in town for that weekend. I think, than in weekends past, because it just happened to coincide with that other major event in the city. But
was it crowded otherwise? Like,
you know what? Friday was kind of dead. I was surprised, and I was there Saturday, and I heard Saturday and Sunday were pretty busy. I was there Saturday, so Saturday was busy, but Sunday I heard was busy. And but we went out. You know, we hit some killer barbecue places, and you know, it was some great guitar, and so many killer vintage. I mean, just about everything you could imagine was there. You know, 62 Strats for like $50,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So nice stuff.
How much is that Australian? Australian. How much would that be?
8 million, I think.
Million. That was exactly. Wow. Hey, we did get good with the math.
Yeah, we have a guitar show up here in PA that I go to twice a year. It's down in the Philadelphia area. It's called the Pennsylvania Vintage Guitar or Philly Vintage Guitar Show, whatever. And it's a pretty good show. It's I'd say it's probably about medium sized, but it's mostly a vintage guitar show. So obviously there's not much there for me to shop for, because I'm more in the lower tier in terms of what I'm willing to pay for, because I'm not an antiques dealer. But the funniest thing about that show is that you'll have all these booths with these vendors who have all these guitars they're selling and everything. And then there will be a booth that's as big as any of the other normal big booths, but the entire thing is just full of guitar cases. And there will be like a single Japanese guy just sitting there on a chair. Basically, these guys come over every year and they just buy up tons of vintage guitars and take them back. And apparently they've been doing this for like 20 years or however. Like, the appetite for vintage instruments over there is apparently huge.
Yeah. Norm from Norm's Rare Guitars was there early on Friday, because remember, I was in on like an exhibitor pass because my friend was exhibiting there. So I was in before the show opened, and he was in there like soon as it opened, and he just went through and checked out everything. He said he bought a few guitars up there. He said he bought 3 or 4 guitars that day. And, you know, of course, he has the buying power that he can go to a table and start to bundle things together.
Right.
Yeah. So, you know, when someone walks up and says, yeah, you know, they're 25,000 each, how about 2 for 40? And you're looking at a guy who literally can pay you the $40,000.
Yeah.
Like, life decisions, like, right? Like going on right there. About how much you want to hold out for. So, you know, it seemed to be a pretty positive show. I gotta say, I was impressed with it. I liked the Dallas guitar.
That's now you're talking Rick's language. 40 grand for a couple of guitars. That's
They're out. Yeah, 40 grand there. Yeah. If any of you guys in the States played the Eric Johnson thin line strats yet? They look kind of intriguing.
They had them there, and of course Eric Johnson was there too. I think he was playing that exact guitar up on stage. But yeah, there's a few people that had new. There was a few like local guitar stores that brought down all their like crazy, private stock PRSs. I guess there's one guy in town that's like one of the biggest PRS dealers in the nation, and there was a couple of dudes that that they just had their normal like new stock, a little bit of everything that was new, and there was absolutely, I think I took 2 or 3 photos of various vendors that had that new hollow body F-hole cut Strat. I didn't pick it up. It's not like NAMM. At NAMM, it's like you just pick up everything. Everyone was like,
yeah, no.
Look at it. Keep walking.
Yeah. Speaking of which, are we going to go to the Melbourne Guitar Show this year, Rick? We enjoyed it so much last time.
Now I've still got a migraine from the last time. So
oh no.
So we went in there, like we got passed to get in a little bit early, and it was great. Like we got to walk around and check stuff out, and then everyone came in, and that was when the day ended for us. We were like, "This is you bumping, there's nowhere to walk." It got hot and stuffy, and man, I can only imagine how crazy.
Steve Lukather said, "I'd rather have a prostate examination than go to another NAMM show."
Do they have volume restrictions at those shows in Australia?
Not when Rick's there.
See, over here, man, every show you go to pretty much has volume restrictions. They got volume police that'll come around and they'll shut you down if you're too loud.
They were getting really loud at Dallas. I'm so used to the NAMM show with the sound police running around with
what do they measure with? How do they? Is it just
they have a decibel meter?
They do.
They stand right in the aisle. And if you go above a certain point, they'll. There was one year I went to the what is it, the Supro? Who's the? I went to their booth to try something out, and they had been shut down. The sound police had.
NAMM had one booth shut down this past year, gone, closed down, too loud. It literally had a sign. This booth got too loud. It is now shut down.
It's ridiculous.
Just in case you showed up looking for them. They're like, no, they were here. They're gone now.
Yeah, but think about how miserable it would be if they didn't have volume restrictions.
Right.
They used to do these amp shows on, I think it was Alani Spector thing. He would do one on the East Coast, and I think he still does the LA one. But at those shows, he would basically rent out an entire hotel, and he would auction off the rooms to different vendors, and the vendors would set up their amps, and it expanded to be guitar players and everything. They would set up in hotel rooms. It would be a hotel where they had a suite where there was like a back bedroom and then a front room where they'd have all their stuff set up. And one of the things they'd advertise is that there were no volume restrictions. Well, let me tell you, that comes at a cost, and that cost is that you feel like you're going crazy walking down the hall because everybody is cranking the amps as loud as they can go. And it doesn't matter if they shut the hotel room door. I mean, the entire place just echoes with every conceivable style of music all simultaneously. And it was a spectacle.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. I just had to walk off for a sec.
Pepsi Max refill? Nope.
No. Whatever the opposite of that is.
the downstream.
Turned off your what was it, Kenneth Russell?
Oh, yeah. So we did a live stream with Kenneth Russell.
Live stream.
He was streaming.
Yeah. That will never be forgotten. That will just never be forgotten.
Yeah.
The 2 funniest moments, I think, on a hangout was when, craziest was probably that. When
I know the other one.
Took us to the bathroom, and when Jamal, one of the regulars, he was doing something off camera, and he was just literally mooning us, mooning the webcam. It was going to be the thumbnail, but I thought, no, I can't do that.
Shane's leaving out the live stream where he sent out a public link to it, and it was nothing but the most horrendous. The most darkest corner of gross that you could possibly. That someone just kept streaming, and they kept calling back in, and it was stuff you can't unsee, and it still haunts my dreams. It was great.
Yeah, so back when the Hangouts thing started, they could get easily exploited, and you'd have no real way of banning people. So we used to send the link out publicly in the chat, and people would these spam guys would get in, and you'd see beheadings and all kinds of weird stuff. So
yeah,
they all those streams had to get deleted. It was crazy. So I learned my lesson. Start an email list. Yeah. Well, we're coming up to 5 minutes left, guys. This has been awesome. Thanks so much for hanging out. This has been great. And if anyone else wants to bring up anything before we finish, that's cool. If you have any last-minute questions as well, leave them in the chat. And don't forget to check out these guys' channels as well. I already posted all names of the channels and stuff in the description. And after this live stream caches, I'll put links up in the cards so you can find all the channels that way as well. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun.
This has been great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. Shane, this is awesome.
Flies by every time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wish I'd love to do this more. And if anyone else wants to host one, they want to have a tag along, I'm always happy to join too. So this isn't just restricted to my channel. I'm always happy to join in anywhere else. So anyone else wants to lock one in and I'm awake, I'll be there. Or if I'm not awake, I think I owe Andrew a favor now. So 3 a.m. my time, mate, I'll be there. I'll be caffeinated up and we'll be good to go.
I'm holding you to that at some point. I'll see how many of my children come into the same room as me while we're live streaming.
Showman Blue says,
I'm wrecking his whole family.
Yeah, there you go. Showman Blue says, Dr. Rick, you and Shane are going to do some more jams. We're actually going to be shooting some videos on Monday, all being well. So we'll if you mean live clips, we do still play live together, just at the jams mostly these days. Every now and then.
I've got a new policy. I don't play with anyone who doesn't have a $10,000 rig. So go shopping this weekend, Shane.
I'll get the finest PV I can find, mate. I swear it'll be amazing. The trans-tube technology will.
Have you ever seen an ad for a guitar player where the guy's seeking a guitar player and he lists a list of acceptable guitars and amps for the guitar player that he's seeking? He's like, must own one of the following guitars and one of the following. There's this big list of like all this boutique stuff, and I'm like, you have got to be kidding me.
Yeah, there's a local guy in Australia called Ray Beadle, one of the best guitar players I've ever heard in my life, like top 5. Amazing, plays a Squier classic vibe, plays whatever amp he can borrow on tour, and the guy's a monster. It makes zero difference to his sound. He's just so good. I rave about Chris Kane, who's up here. Ray's as good as this guy. And just, he can play chicken picking, he can play blues, play classic rock, everything, extremely jazz, everything. And he makes it look so easy. He's like a 3-person, 1-man acoustic band. He can play acoustic like there's 3 people playing. And like you look him up on YouTube and it's like, is that a Squier? Oh my God. It just doesn't matter. But in his defense,
that Squier Classic 5, that it shouldn't even be in the Squier lineup. It's
no, you're right. They are great guitars. Yeah.
That reminds me of Jack Pearson, who is a guitar player out in Nashville. He has played with the Allman Brothers. He's one of my favorite blues. When he plays blues, like I'm in a trance. Like I can't look away. And more often than not, when you see him play, he will be on stage with a Squier. And he could probably get whatever amp he wants from whoever. I think he does have is it him that has a signature model with Lindy Fralin? Or no, Lindy Fralin has a signature model with VVT. Something like that. Anyway, just an amazing player. And he just goes on stage and does things with just a regular old Squier Strat that are just amazing.
He's incredible. Jack's great.
Oh, I thought I was cutting someone off there. Did someone... No.
Well, I was going to say that Jimi Hendrix just played off the rack Stratocasters when he went and played, and it's not like they were in the 70s, late 60s or 70s, were the greatest things ever made in that period. Have it play, it's the hands.
If you put anything through a coily cable, it's all going to come out sounding the same anyway.
That's awesome. So, yeah, thanks everyone in the chat. This has been awesome fun. Don't forget to give the live stream a thumbs up if you can. We've got still 200 people here, which is great. I don't know how many people we've had during the course of the 2 hours, but I'm assuming
saw over 200 for sure. Something maybe
great.
Yeah, that's
in
cool.
the 200s.
Looks like we've had 200 stable the entire time. So
I think it dropped about 50 when I showed the metal zone, but
that's going to be my next Will It Blues video coming up after my my first one. Wait, I tell you what, if you want to, my goal with this Will It Blues series is to kind of troll and to kind of just.
It's going to be so great.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be so great.
I got the wig. The t-shirt, it's all sorted, man. This is going to be a fun year. I'm going to try some different stuff and just
good deal.
Fun.
When's it going live, Shane?
Only a couple of days away. It's this week coming up. So
awesome.
Yeah, it's uploaded and queued. I can't remember exactly what day, but you'll know it when you see the thumbnail. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, I just wanted to say thanks again, guys, for stopping in and doing this. I love all your guys' channels, and you all produce good stuff, and it's been great being able to chat to you in person as often as we do, and except for Andrew, who I haven't spoken to in person until now. So thanks for mate. I know this time's awful for you too, man. So thank you for being a part of this.
No, thanks for inviting me.
It's been great. So. All right, stay on the line just for a sec, guys. We'll drop off the live stream. But, yeah, check out the channels. Like I said, all links will be in the description. And go buy a Metal Zone.
$35. That's